For the first 50 years of Olathe's existence, churches, as they do today, played a vital role in creating community through social activities, spiritual growth, and opportunities for service. Some of these early churches are still in existence, and some have merged into other organizations, but they all have been important to the life of Olathe. In the early 1860s, missionary priests celebrated Mass in the homes of Olathe parishioners. In 1864, plans for the building of a church were made and subscriptions to pay for the building began. With money being scarce to complete the church, funds were solicited from railroad workmen. These contributions allowed for the completion of the first St. Paul's Church, in which the first Mass was celebrated in October 1868. Just 2 months before the railroad began service from Kansas City to Olathe. Today, St. Paul's Catholic Church is located in southwest Olathe and continues its service to Olathe that began over 150 years ago. Olathe's anti-slavery stance during the Civil War made it open for attack from pro-slavery Missourians. In September 1862, William Quantrill and his men raided Olathe. Some Union recruits were sleeping on the floor of the Presbyterian Church when the guerrillas entered and ordered them to wake up. One failed to wake up, and he was shot. After the war, the Presbyterian Church was barely surviving. A church split called for the formation of a new name, and those remaining from the split formed the First Presbyterian Church. The first church bell in Olathe rang for Christmas services in 1867. And is located today on the front lawn of the current First Presbyterian Church grounds, located near St. Paul's in southwest Olathe. As Olathe grew, so did its need for larger churches. The first Christian church in Olathe organized in 1860. Its first building, located on Kansas Avenue, was a simple 16 feet by 24 feet frame structure, also used as a day school. In less than 10 years, the congregation outgrew that building, and a new church was constructed at Willian Park. In 1881, that location was needed for the building of the Santa Fe Railroad Depot, so the congregation moved their building to Lula and Chestnut. The membership swelled with a revival in 1887, and a bigger church was needed. In 1888, a new church building was dedicated. On Christmas Eve 1924, a fire broke out just before the annual Christmas program. The church was destroyed, but the congregation immediately began work on a new building. That church, home to the current congregation, was dedicated in 1926. The church still stands today at Chestnut and Lula Streets. After the Civil War, African Americans in a massive migration came north. Some landed in Olathe. The November 6, 1879 Olathe Gazette reported, "Among the colored refugees in Kansas is an entire Baptist church of 300 persons from Delta, Louisiana, led by the pastor and deacons." Part of that group joined the Second Baptist Church in Olathe, which started as a congregation in 1868. Originally, Second Baptist was the first Baptist church of Olathe and one of only 4 black churches in Kansas. In 1887, when whites established their own Baptist church, the colored Baptists were made to change their name to the Second Baptist Church, reflecting the attitudes of discrimination that remained in many places throughout the nation, including Olathe. Today, Second Baptist Church holds services in its original location on Kansas Avenue. In 1892, the Reverend B.T. Benstead came to Olathe from Canada as an instructor at Kansas School for the Deaf, and led the fundraising efforts for the building of a church. The current Olathe Episcopalians moved into Emmanuel Episcopal Church at 221 South Chestnut Street in April 1893. The little church seated 50 to 75 people. Emmanuel kept its connections with the Kansas School for the Deaf over the years, and eventually the small church became the Club for the Deaf, which it remains today. Emmanuel Church moved as it grew and is now St. Aidan's Episcopal Church, located in East Olathe. The Kansas School for the Deaf moved to Olathe from Baldwin City in 1866. Students from across the state attended and boarded at the school 7 days a week. Many of the school instructors recognized the need to provide moral and religious training for the students to become well-rounded individuals. Instructors lived at the school, and part of their duties included instruction on Sundays in the school's chapel. Although no longer used for the purpose of church services, the auditorium at KSD is still referred to as the chapel by many of the staff today. Throughout Olathe's dynamic history, churches have developed right alongside the community. These early churches did much to help the citizenry of Olathe and deserve their place in history by helping to make Olathe what it is today.